Hello and welcome to my tutorial 101 series for VisualNeo for Windows. Today I'm going to be taking a look at containers. A pretty useful tool. I'm just going to go over quickly in this video the purposes they're kind of meant to serve and some best practice ideas and how to use them. So let's just get started. So you can find containers right here in your objects list at the bottom. The name itself implies some pretty evident stuff. You know, it's a container where you can put things and move them sort of relatively within by just moving the container. And you know, if you go over here and make it invisible, of course everything in the container will be invisible. So you kind of have some uses that way as far as, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can use this to maybe use a container to have pop-up windows is another good idea. Actually, I might go over that in this video if I have time. But for now, I kind of wanted to show you the implications of using this as a sort of layout tool. So I have an application here, and I know that I kind of want across the top, I'm going to want to have a bar here. And on the left, I kind of want to have some buttons that are going to, you know, I don't know what, have links to a web object in the middle here perhaps. And I also want to have some stuff on the right. And then my main content will be right here in the middle. So I know that this is kind of the basic layout I want. And that's fine as is. I could do that. But if I resize my project, you can see you run into a bit of an issue right there. So we have snap positions. I'm going to make this one the top. Obviously this one will be on the left. And this one will be on the right. And now when I resize my application, you'll see what happens. It's pretty much like I kind of intended it to be. You could tweak this, which is what we're kind of going to get into here real quickly. Let me start with the left side. No, you know what? Let me start with the top. That'll make this simpler. Let's say I know that I want to have a text input here for somebody to type something in. And next to that, I'm going to have a button so that they can do something with that text. And let's resize this a little bit. There we go, something like that. And I've got something right here in the middle, center text. And we'll center it. And let's put something on the right side here. How about a picture? Okay, we'll put that in there. That sounds fine. Don't really have one in mind. Probably should have prepared a little better. Okay, so you know, at first glance you would think, okay, this is great. If I resize, everything should work out the way I want it to, but it won't. And let me explain why. Objects in most programming environments and in VisualNeo are relative to the left and the top. So this has a position in space, in the space of this application that is relative to the left and the top of the application. So these are all staying where I put them in relativity to the top and to the left. So, and that's not the effect we want. So what we can do is we can actually put containers in containers, but I would be careful here. I've gone as far as to put containers in containers in containers, but it can get confusing very, very quickly, and you can start getting some very strange results, let's say. But anyway, you know, I put the containers in containers, no problem, and I want this on the left-hand side. And I'm going to grab these two things, I'm going to Control X to cut them, and I'm going to paste them in here. Okay, and we'll put them right about there. Sounds good. We'll go up one. Okay, and That's because I have two objects. If you have just one object, you could put it in relative space in the container rather than in the application. So like this image, for instance, I only have one object on the right here, so that makes it easy. I can just go and put the snap position to right, and it'll stay on the right-hand side in regards to the container that it's in. The center text. Okay, so the center text, I want to stay in the center. So there's one of two ways to do this. I'm going to do it the easy way. I'm just going to double click it and put it in the center. This is going to cause this this isn't going to be the way I'm going to want to do it, and I'll explain why. It may, depends on how it looks. But when I click this, it's going to fill up all the space between the left, the right, the top, and the bottom. So it's actually going to fill all this up. And that's kind of not really what I was looking for. Maybe it might look okay in the end. I'm not sure. But then that does keep things kind of positioned where I wanted them. We might come back to that, but I just want to put one more thing out there. If, let's say, I want some buttons and I want them right on the bottom. And let's draw, so we got button 1. Button 2. And button 3. Okay, so if I, of course, like I explained before, if I want them on the bottom and I resize, of course, they're staying in their position relative to the top and the left. That's not going to work. The items themselves, we can, like we've already done, we'll snap them to a position. This time I want them on the bottom. Let me cancel that. I'm going to do this one first just to demonstrate something here real quick. We'll put this one on the bottom as well. And then button number 2, we will also snap to the bottom. Okay, so these things are basically, if you think of it like this, they're sharing the bottom space. So if you need to move things around, you can drag them, drop them like that, and then you can sort of the last one you put on top, or you can even put them, you know, in the middle, 3, 2, 1, or there. And then, you know, that'll give you the effect you're after, keeping those buttons on the bottom. And yeah, that's perfect. That's what I wanted. So let's take a look at one more thing. This well, we kind of went over the center. I'm going to disconnect this from the center and not give it a snap position, because let's say I want it, I don't want it at the top, I want it right smack dab in the middle. So in order to achieve keeping this in the center of the center, we can actually do this with 2 lines of code. It's really not that complicated. If you double click the container object properties, and under the resize action, all we really have to do is we have to get some information about the container itself. So container 19, we want to know its width. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Let's put it in a variable called container width. Okay, and we know that we want this to be right smack dab in the middle, so we need to divide that by 2, right? So we're going to move this object, text number 6. Okay, and its left position, 87, that's not what it's going to be. It's actually going to be, we'll do a small calculation here. It's going to be the container's width variable divided by 2. That's going to give us the center point. However, it's going to move the object's top left corner to that position, so it won't quite be center. So what we kind of need to do is go here, and we can see that this is 240 pixels wide, this object itself. So here, if we minus half of that, so if we go to minus 240, so 120, that should put us right smack dab in the middle. Let's give that a run and try it and see. So if we maximize, yep, everything stayed in the center, stayed to the right, good. Now what about on a resize? There we go. Everything's floating right where I want it to be. So yeah, that's kind of a brief go over on containers, how they work. If they have any questions, put it down in the comments and I'll get to them. As always, have fun programming.